Alright, good afternoon everybody. This is going to be Ted's review of the GreenWorks electric tiller. Haven't done really one of these before, so I figured I would give it a shot this time. So let's see what happens. Is the GreenWorks 80 volt cordless electric tiller. Now I didn't see any other reviews online for the 80 volt model, so I figured I would make this one for everyone's information. This is the TL80 L210. Comes with an 80 volt battery and one charger, and obviously the machine itself. Now this machine was purchased, paid for in full. This is not a sponsored video, not in any way affiliated or associated with GreenWorks or any of their companies. So this should be a pretty fair, honest review of the machine and how it works, whether it be good, bad, or indifferent. I'm also going to be comparing it with our base machine, the machine that I've used for many years, which is this relic here. This is our RotoCul 1005. It's made by Simplicity. This is, I believe, a early 80s machine. Well, it actually has to be newer than 82 because it is solid state ignition, meaning no points. This is a no frills machine. As you can see, there's no safeties. It only goes in one direction, but it's gotten the job done for many years. But being that my father recently had a shoulder replacement surgery, trying to start this machine is sometimes very difficult, so figured we'd give the electric one a shot. So let's get this thing unboxed and get to it, get it apart so we can put it to work. Alright, so after you get all the components unboxed and unwrapped, you are left with what you see before us here. You have the wheel assembly, which is just two plastic wheels on an axle with a piece of square framing that goes underneath the body of the tiller. You have the main tiller itself, which is the motor, sans battery, and also the gearbox as well. On the underside here, we'll go through all the components and we'll dissect it. Then you have the upper handle section with the button there and also the dead man bar. You have 4 tines. The tines are labeled A through D because they are directional, and I do believe they specify left and right sides. That way they're all pointing in the correct direction so the unit operates properly. I do believe this unit basically has the tines pulling forward, and then you pulling back on the machine is what gives it the cultivating power. Has a bag of hardware and both an instruction manual for the battery and charger, as well as an instruction manual for the machine, which I assume, like most small machine companies, is mostly warnings about how not to cut your leg off, and the rest of it is in some other language, but that's okay. We can figure it out. Snap-on pliers not included, but you will need them to cut the zip ties off that hold some of the parts together in the box. Overall, pretty well packaged. Nothing's really scratched, dented, damaged, etc. And everything appears to be here. Obviously not pictured here is the battery and the charger because I have them plugged in inside. So that way I can charge the battery up. My battery came completely discharged. There was no lights illuminated on the battery itself when I took it out of the box. So wanted to give this obviously a fair shot and give it a full charge before attempting to use it. And I'm also going to time to see how long it takes to charge it from presumably a totally dead battery to fully charged. So we started the charging at about 140, so we're going to see what time it ends there. So let me get this put together, and then we'll get back once the battery's charged up and this is all put together. Alright, so a couple tips while we're putting this all together here. I wanted to just quickly go over the gearbox on this unit because it's something I feel like most people have a lot of questions on. This is a cast aluminum piece. It's got a center section and then it's got an outer part. It actually is bolted together. It has 2 pieces. This is cast into the, oh boy, over here. This piece is cast as part of this housing, and then the other side here is its own separate piece. So it's 2 pieces total. They're bolted together. It's a sealed unit. The owner's manual makes no mention of having to check oil, check grease, replace it. So I'm going to make the assumption, like many machines, once this gearbox starts to get worn out, it's a matter of replacement. It does have seals on the shaft, which is a nice feature. At least it has something like that, better than like a piece of felt or something. But it's not serviceable if it ever does decide to die, which eventually it probably will. One tip for these shafts. They don't make any mention of this in the owner's manual, but I'm going to tell you folks to do this anyway, is to put a little bit of wheel bearing or heavy grease on the shaft surfaces themselves. The reason for that is if you don't put anything on here and you just put these hubs and these tines on here, okay, that's fine. It'll work. There's no issue with that. And if you never ever plan on changing the tine direction or taking the outer tine off and just running the inner one, if you want to run it narrower, which is an option that this machine has, if you don't grease it, good luck getting them back off. As soon as you get a little bit of moisture in there from using the machine at all, or anything like that, if you let the thing sit outside once, this is just, you know, bare steel, and so is this. This will rust in you know, one exposure of rain. So put a little bit of grease on it now, and you'll thank me later. Trust me. All right, a total of about 8 minutes later, we have the machine fully prepped and ready to go. As you can see, I am running all 4 tines. I've never had any luck with running just half the tines. I don't really know what the point of that is, but whatever. I did have to do a little bit digging to figure out these pins obviously work fine if you use them, if you're using all 4 tines. However, if you want to use just the inner tines, you have to use these pins. I couldn't figure out where these went until I figured this out myself, because there's no mention of it in the manual. But if you think about it, if you tried using this pin inside here with all this shaft sticking out, there'd be no way you'd be able to flip the hasp over to lock it. So that's what they give you these for. Again, no mention in the manual, so I figured I would just bring that up, that if you are using those, just the inner 2 tines, they'd obviously be flipped around, but you get what I'm saying. You'd have to use these instead of those. Otherwise, I mean, I don't know how else you would get these things on there. So, but as you can see, it does have the grease on it. Wheels are on it. Now, I set these wheels at the highest setting possible, which means the most depth possible. And the reason for that is because I used to have a Mantis tiller, and Mantis tillers never had wheels on them. At least never the old ones never did. So, and they seem to dig just fine. So I'm going to just set it up there. Honestly, it's nice to have the wheels, because if anyone knows how an old Mantis was, you tried setting this thing down anywhere and all it would do is just fall over and hit you in the legs, which is kind of annoying. So it kind of has its own kickstand, which is sort of nice. This machine also has that as well, which is pretty cool. So I'm going to wait for the battery to finish charging, and we're going to get this thing all set up and ready to go. Another thing to note is when you go to charge the battery, you're going to notice that the charger is freaking loud. I don't know, they've had like the largest computer fan in that thing, and it runs inside that charger constantly. I don't know why that's necessary. This thing must put out some serious power or something. I don't know. But either way, it is easily louder than all of my cordless tool battery chargers and electric heater and really anything else that's just plugged in my shop combined. I mean, it is quite loud. So again, not like, you know, the end of the world. It's not dangerous or whatever. It's the fan's sealed, but it's just something to know that if you plug the thing in, it's going to sound like you have like a, you know, a gaming computer or something running real loud in your garage all the time. So as soon as it gets charged up, we will give this thing a shot and see what happens. All right, so I just watched the last battery light turn green, and the time is 2:05, and just so you have an idea how loud the battery charger is, there you go. All right, so the first test of this, I'm going to start out easy. Right in between these bushes here is stuff that was tilled up about 2 weeks ago, so it's fairly loose soil. It rained a couple days ago, so it's not real dry. It's just, you know, slow damp there. But this should be no issue. I'm not really expecting this to have any trouble with it. But let's give her a shot here. All right, so as you can see, I did a couple spots here and there. Goes through it no problem, no issue at all. So one thing, so we're going to go over here to this section. This section I have not tilled. All I've done is basically ground the grass down as low as I can. And I'm going to try to set you guys up so you can watch the machine work in action while I operate it. It's a little hard to hold with two hands because it takes two hands to start it. You have to hit the button there and pull the dead man lever at the same time, otherwise the whole thing won't start. So let me set you all up here. Uh-oh, what was that? Nope, got jammed up with a rock. So trip the safety out here. So we got a decent sized rock in here. Right there. All right, let me go and get some screwdrivers. We'll pry that rock out there and be back in business. Stand by. All right, back in business. Let's keep her going. So I don't know if you guys just heard that, but it sounded like the thing picked up speed for, I don't know what reason. It just decided that it wanted to go faster, which, I mean, it seems to be working all right, so I guess we'll just keep on going. Let me set this thing up in a little different area. I'll finish off this little corner, and then we'll move to the final test of the machine and see what she's got here. This is a little annoying, though. You have to hold this button down and then pull this thing back. Definitely not YouTube friendly, you know? So overall, not too bad. I only got hung up on really one rock. Does seem to catch a lot of growth, but this is all grassy stuff, so that's kind of to be expected. I remember our mantis used to be the same way, but I mean, definitely broke the ground up. You know, it's not going super deep when it does it. It's just a couple inches, but honestly, that's kind of what I'm after here, is just to break this up so that way we can put some weed barrier down and then some mulch. And what is nice about this machine, as you can see, I was getting in between some fairly tight areas here. I mean, that's like basically my foot is about a foot, so yeah, no, 2 feet there, got some room. You know, a lot of the bigger machines, even my larger tiller over there, has a hard time fitting in some of those areas, so definitely is nice for that feature there. Now, let's see how much battery we've used. Showing 2 bars. We're down a bar, and let me see how the gearbox feels. All right, the gearbox is actually pretty warm. I mean, I can keep my hand on there, but it's definitely getting hot. And this is not very long use, so I would say that if you're going to be doing, you know, you're going to be doing hours and hours of tillage all day, every day, machine's probably going to not hold up as well as you might like it. I'm not sure if that gearbox is really designed for that kind of continuous use, but if you're just going to be doing something where you're breaking up a couple flower beds once or twice a year, it'll probably be fine. I mean, just for comparison's sake, we can look at the gearbox on this machine. I mean, as you can see, this is obviously quite a bit larger. This is all cast iron. It has a plug here, so you can add lubricant to the gearbox as well. I mean, the tines, you can see how much heavier they are. I mean, overall, this is a much larger machine. We're not exactly comparing apples to apples here, and I know that, so this is not 100% fair, so totally understand that, but just interesting to see how it goes. One thing I will say that's an advantage for that machine versus this machine is this machine will beat you up. I mean, it will work you to the bone, because once it grabs something, it takes you with it. It does not give up. That thing being a lot smaller is a lot more forgiving for smaller areas, especially if, you know, your back or your shoulders is not of, you know, prime condition. A smaller machine like this might be perfect for you. But if you're going to be doing large areas, or if you need to dig more than 3-4 inches deep, you're probably going to want to get a larger machine, or ideally, if you're doing real large areas, something that's like tractor mounted or something with hydraulic pressure. For, you know, any of you big garden people, if you've never used a like a 3-point tractor mounted PTO tiller or a hydraulic tiller, let me tell you, you don't know what you're missing. It is a huge difference. But for obviously, you know, for something like this, that's totally impractical. So you need to have a compromise, and it's honestly a pretty good machine. I mean, the runtime, it's been running for about 30 minutes, and I'm sorry, about 20 minutes, and it's already down a bar, so I figure probably get about an hour out of a charge, which, I mean, is okay. You know, it's not going to do a huge area, but just keep that in mind. If you need continuous use, you may want to get another battery. The good thing is the battery charges faster than in an hour. So theoretically, if you had 2 batteries and you always swapped one on the charger and then one back onto the machine, you could be continuously using the machine without any interruption, which is honestly a great thing. That really held back a lot of these older cordless machines in terms of their comparison to their gas counterparts. Is, you know, once your gas machine ran out of gas, you just filled up the tank and you went back to work, whereas these you had to wait hours and hours to charge. I mean, this thing charged in a matter of under 30 minutes, so that's definitely a nice bonus. But as you can see, it definitely broke it all up well, and really worked well. So our final test is going to be in a garden that has been untouched for several years now. So let's get all the machinery over there. We'll get both tillers over there and out there and give them a shot and see what happens. So I'll be right back in a minute. 3 passes with this machine. Let's go take a look at what the job looks like afterwards. Again, like I said, this is totally virgin ground. I mean, there's trees as tall as I am growing here, so that should tell you something about how long it's been since I've used this garden. But as you can see, it's broken up nice and soft. You've got about 4, maybe 6 inches of depth here. Pretty clayey soil. So overall, not bad. Would I want to do this whole 26 by 57 garden area by hand? I mean, I don't know, maybe with half a bottle of Advil, maybe, but it's pretty hard on your back. I mean, the thing is hard mounted, engine hard mounted to frame, metal handles. Most of the time I actually wear gloves. I'm not a glove wearing kind of person, but this thing vibrates so bad, you'd be crazy not to. So what I'm going to do now is set y'all up again. I'm going to do the GreenWorks 80 volt next to it here. Try to keep it as fair and even as possible. And let's see how she fares. Get y'all set up. Now, I'll be honest with you, I don't expect this to go super well. This is a very hard task for any tiller, any walk behind, let alone one that's electric. So, you know, I wouldn't really be very surprised if this didn't work that well. All right, let's try to get this done here. Do the one backwards pull, that way it's even in comparison to the other machine. Well, let's see how it did. So overall, you can definitely tell where it did break the ground up. See how much depth we have here. So probably have maybe 2 or 3 inches of depth here. Again, it's not scientific. One thing I am noticing with this type of machine is there's this ridge in between this side and this side. So you basically, if you're going to be tilling a garden, you have to basically put your 2 tine sets here, and then your next set has to be like a half pass, so it'll take the other half top off. And the reason why that is because if you look at the tines, you notice that they're basically all straight up and down. All of them are up and down. There's a little bit of curve in the blades, but not very much. So what that means is that as each tine is chopping in the ground, it's making basically 4 individual furrows, and that basically carries out into 2 sets of troughs across the thing. Now, on the contrary, that's not as prevalent with the other machine here. There is still a hump in the middle where the gearbox is, but if you notice, the tines are curved at the end. So what happens is since this tine covers almost everything that this tine does, they tend to overlap slightly, and that helps keep those furrows down. In the middle, you can't avoid it. There's always going to be that. So it's not perfect, but it's just something to note. So overall, what do I think between these 2 machines here? These are my thoughts. It all depends on what your application is really going to be, as to what machine is going to be better and make your job or life easier. If you're going to be doing something where it's a smaller area, or especially an area between a lot of tight shrubs and bushes, the GreenWorks is really your key. There's basically no maintenance. It's a sealed gearbox. It's got a battery that you charge. The battery charges quickly, and there's no oil, no gas, really no maintenance. I mean, other than cleaning the thing off, putting it away in your shed, there's really not much maintenance you have to do. I don't know how waterproof they are, if they can be left outside, but I really wouldn't recommend leaving any of these kinds of machines outside. It just weathers them significantly. It's not something I really recommend. So aside from that, if you're going to be doing some small areas that have been tilled before, where they're not super hard packed like where we're standing right now, I think the GreenWorks machine is a fine machine. I'd probably try taking the wheels off of it and seeing how well that digs. That gets you a little bit more, but there's only going to be so much that you can do. I mean, overall, the handles are in a good spot. You're not punched over all the time using it, so it's pretty good. Now, if you're going to be doing something where the ground is harder, open areas, you're going to want to step up to a heavier duty gas machine. And it's not just because of the extra power of the gas. The extra power definitely helps, but it's also because of just the weight of the machine. The weight's kind of like a double-edged sword. When you're pulling the machine, the weight obviously you feel because you're pulling a heavy machine. But the weight also helps sink that tiller deeper into the ground. You know, I got almost double the depth in the same number of passes out of that machine than I did with the GreenWorks. And that really all comes down to the ability to sink itself down into there. The GreenWorks machine weighs very little, maybe 15, maybe 20 pounds. It's a very light machine. Conversely, I think the gearbox on that thing weighs as much as the whole GreenWorks thing does combined. And with that machine, you're actually finding yourself using yourself to pull the machine out of the ground as it tries to dig itself further and further in. And that's kind of the tillage operation you want, where you want to break down heavy ground, you want to break through that surface and really get down deep. You know, if you're going to be planting anything other than like seedlings in this garden, you wouldn't really get the depth you need out of a GreenWorks machine unless you went over it numerous times over and over and over again to break it up. Whereas this thing, you can go through it a couple times and get rid of it. Now, I left purposely all this overgrown brush and crap in here because I wanted to show, you know, does the thing get clogged up? Does it get all bound up with stuff getting wrapped around the tines? And the answer is no. It's actually done a very good job of staying clean. There's very little buildup on the gearbox and the tines on the GreenWorks machine, so that's really good. Some buildup on this machine as well, but very clean on that, which is that's a good thing. That's kind of a sign of a good design. The mantises were usually pretty bad about wrapping up with a bunch of crap, and that was always a real pain in the neck. You'd have to pull those tines off. Another reason why I learned to grease those gearbox shafts is because you'd have to pull tines off so often to pull all this garbage out that the machine would accumulate. Otherwise, you're kind of it'd be like the equivalent of driving, your vehicle with tires that are full of mud packed in between a tread. It wouldn't grab anything. It would just kind of be spinning a ball of dirt and grass over the top of whatever you're working on. So overall, a very good machine here. Still have 2 bars of energy, so that's pretty good. I mean, you could probably, like I said, run the thing for about an hour straight. Gearbox temperature, we could check. Yeah, it's warm. It's also been sitting for a few minutes, so that's not really super scientific. But I mean, I wouldn't go crazy about getting scientific with them, because every ground, every area you work is going to be different, and put different amount of load, different amounts of load or drag on the machine. So I wouldn't be super concerned with that. If I were to improve anything on the machine, I think this double kill setup, where you have to press a button on the machine itself right here. You have to press this button and then hold that down while you pull this. I think that's a little excessive. I mean, I think that if you just held the thing back, that's enough, operator connection to the machine to like turn the machine on. I think kind of having two is overkill, but again, that might be something that's required by some sort of government entity, that's not GreenWorks' control. And I'm sure if GreenWorks could save money by not putting a button on there, I'm sure they'd be the first people to leave it off. So overall, a good machine. Oh, the other thing I would improve with this, the tine speed. One thing that the Mantis definitely did better, and when I'm talking Mantis, I'm talking about the older 2-stroke metal shield, not the 4-stroke version. I'm talking about the old school 2-stroke. This is like the same 10-inch width here to keep it even. The tine speed. This thing, the tines are very slow. It works. It has the torque. Obviously, it's geared down on purpose to be able to chug through the dirt. But the tine speed being as slow as it is definitely means that you can't move as quickly through the ground. That machine also has a very slow tine speed, but it digs deeper. So it's kind of like a trade-off. This doesn't dig that deep, and it doesn't spin that fast. So you're kind of just waiting for it to chew up the material before you can move on any further. So I mean, if there was a way to have a little bit more torque to be able to handle a more higher gear ratio, I think that would really benefit the way the machine works. But overall, I think a decent machine for someone who's going to be doing small areas a handful times a year. I think that if you buy it to do any kind of commercial work, I think you're going to be disappointed in it, being that it's just going to wear out the gearbox. I definitely see that as being a weak area, being how hot it got with only about 30 minutes of use on it. And I would say that if you're going to be doing anything large open area or hard pack, definitely want to get yourself something that's heavier, larger, gas powered, to save yourself a bunch of work. But thank you guys all for watching. This is my first attempt at doing any kind of a machine review, so I appreciate anyone's comments or feedback. If you found the video helpful, I'd appreciate it if you gave it a like. You can subscribe. We're going to be hopefully doing more types of these reviews in the future, and I'd like to take the feedback you guys give me and put that in the next video. So we'll see you again. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.